Greetings and salutations, my name is OJ as always, and welcome back to another episode of the DBDathon, a series of videos where I go over every single killer in Dead by Daylight, from Trapper all the way up to the now not so recently released Springtrap. I go over their lore, aka just reading their in-game bio, their power and gameplay, their teachable perks, as well as their design and my least/favourite cosmetics for them. With that said, our object of obsession today is Ji-Woon Hak, also known as the Trickster. Now, as I do in every single one of these videos thus far, I'd like to start off by reading his in-game bio, as to no one's surprise, I'm not really a lore guy when it comes to Dead by Daylight at least. If you're looking for in-depth talks on the lore, I'd suggest watching someone like Pixelbush, who does really good videos on the lore of Dead by Daylight. Also, this segment's probably going to be very long, because this is my first time reading this. I didn't know the Trickster had, one of the longest lore entries this far. I think he has the longest. But anyways, with that said, his lore reads as such. Ji-Woon Hak thrived under the attention of others, energized by every eye that watched him and every tongue that spoke his name. Amid the prestige, he had only one desire: more. Even as a child, he found ways to draw crowds. Working at his family's restaurant, he attracted business with spectacles he performed using throwing knives. Gullible tourists believed this was a traditional South Korean experience, gladly parting with their money to witness it. Ji-Woon's father spent the restaurant's earnings on dancing and vocal lessons for his son, pushing him to attain the fame he never could. Ji-Woon didn't disappoint. After years showcasing his abilities to nobodies at talent shows, he hit the track to stardom. Yun-Jin Lee, a producer at Mighty One Entertainment, recruited Ji-Woon into her training program. He transferred to a dormitory in Seoul, where, for 14 hours a day, he was crafted into a star, taught how to move and sing, how to carry himself with the right balance of confidence and modesty. Draining as the process was, it worked. Yun-Jin selected Ji-Woon to join the band No Spin, bringing a raw energy to their tracks. Fame was almost immediate. Ji-Woon lived in a daze of interviews and adoration, and though the frenzied schedule exhausted his bandmates, he was invigorated. Each day was an affirmation that he was greater than the mediocrity that society spewed out. But over time, the champagne grew stale. When he looked at his fans, he saw their joy and envy split 5 ways, thinned out between each band member. The validation that had surged through him left a desperate yearning for more. Ji-Woon kept up impressions, mimicking a charm long buried under loathing. He recorded the latest No Spin album with his bandmates, never missing a beat. After a lengthy lunch break, he returned to the studio to discover that fate had granted him a gift. The scent of burning wires was unmistakable. He rushed to the control room, finding the door blocked by a fallen speaker. On the other side, his bandmates pounded on the door, their cries accompanied by the crackling of flames. Ji-Woon called to them, dashing to the speakers, grabbing one and stopping. He froze. Each breath was a conscious, deliberate process requiring all his attention. The nearby cries hardly audible until slowly he backed away. And then he heard it. They were screaming his name as they burnt, screaming for him to save them. Ji-Woon! Ji-Woon! Ji-Woon Hak! It was the most beautiful thing he'd ever heard. When the fire crew arrived, his tears were genuine. Ji-Woon was celebrated as a tragic figure, a hero who did all he could in a futile attempt to save his friends. Yun-Jin paraded him through interviews until it was time to rebrand. He was reborn as the Trickster, a solo artist who produced his own songs, sporting a soft heart beneath a wild exterior. But away from concert setups and television stages, something darker grew. He targeted those who lived alone, coming to them in the night. The first was a college music student with a captivating voice. Ji-Woon woke him with a baseball bat to the skull, binding his arms and legs, gagging him with a rag duct-taped around his mouth. He tortured him for hours, dissecting him alive. Yet there was something missing, a sound, a connection. He He wanted to hear the victim's wondrous voice pleading as he cut his belly open, but all he received was muffled cries for a rag. He learnt and adjusted. Victims had to be abducted, driven to an abandoned building where he could let their voices carry unrestrained emotion. He made music from them, prodding in the right places to evoke different types of shrieks and howls. Stabbing the quadratus lumborum elicited a long guttural wail, while slashing the carotid artery created a sound like a cat being strangled. There was honesty in their suffering. Ji-woon recorded each session, synthesizing and working them into his songs, hiding them behind layers of melodies. He was elated with his work. He left hints for the police, arranging a mink boa from a recent photo shoot around a victim's slashed throat. For his next killing, he removed the teeth from a man that a boxer in one of his music videos was without. During a particularly audacious plea for attention, he killed a fan he had met during a VIP meetup, replacing her eyes with his diamond cufflinks and writing, "I have seen God," in blood across her chest. Each scene was a dazzling spectacle. Between music and murder, Ji-woon's work was discussed globally. However, as violence became his preferred art style, his music career took a hit. Revenue was down, and Mighty One executives pointed their finger at him. Yun-Jin, with professional fury, came to his defense, but she was outnumbered. It was decided that Ji-woon could no longer self-produce his songs. The decision was devastating. His tracks fused genuine humanity into music, yet executives rejected anything that wasn't generic and expected. And so be it. If they couldn't understand his art, he would incorporate them into it until they did. He had 3 months until he was to perform a private show for Mighty One's board members. 3 months to plan his magnum opus. He transferred obscene amounts of money to a veterinarian in exchange for canisters of nitrous oxide, then bribed the stage technician of Mighty One's private theatre for access to the room. His celebrity granted him a benefit of the doubt no regular person could conceive. When the show was ready, gas seeped into the room as executives and stagehands awaited Ji-woon, conveniently running behind schedule. When he arrived, half-conscious bodies were splayed in their seats, crawling across the floor. He worked quickly, binding everyone, pausing only when he came to Yun-Jin, the woman who had plucked him from a mud hole and set him on the right path that he deserved. She would be rewarded, granted special access to the coming display of wonder. Even under sedation, she fought, a raging storm within her, far stronger than the others. He propped her up as the lone audience member, prying her eyes open. The others, snivelling and sobbing, were brought on stage to perform their final act. With a contemptible sneer, he slapped makeup on their faces and shone stage lights upon them. They became his instruments. To the sound of self-produced melodies, he tortured them, gracefully dashing from one body to another, conducting an operatic crescendo from their wailings. They shouted, whimpered, screamed, cried for their loved ones, cried for their mothers. It was a magnificent outpouring of emotion, of what it meant to be human, and they did it with eyes fixed on Ji-woon. Viscera drained from the stage until, with the toss of his throwing knife, the final human instrument fell silent and the music stopped. Covered in sweat and blood, an exhausted Ji-woon looked to Yun-Jin and bowed. Curtain call. He had obtained perfection. With blade in hand, he made his way to Yun-Jin, prepared to tie up loose ends before the credits rolled. But as he reached her, the fog. From where he didn't know, but it billowed around them, damp, cool, comfortable. He saw the grand stage, hospitals, temples, forests and slaughterhouses, an eternal place adorned with rusted hooks, sustained by the million eyes that would watch him, run from him, experience him. All he had to do was accept, become an implement of the fog, and most importantly, make them scream. Encore! Yeah, Trickster's got really, really good lore. That's the end of his lore, by the way. It ends with encore. That's really, really cool. I'm going to give that a huge props. I think his lore's really, really fantastic. Now, I must discuss his controversies, of course. And I don't mean his actual in-universe controversies, because there's clearly quite a few of them. I mean the controversies around him as a killer in the hit game Dead by Daylight. When his release came around, me and many others criticised the fact that he wasn't particularly scary in any way, shape or form. At least on a visual level, and kind of in a power level. And, you know what, in gameplay he still isn't really that scary. However, the lore does a very, very good job at justifying his place within the fog. It shows us the absolute demented horror of his kind of psyche, and it does it very well, and shows that he is a man obsessed with fame, with more, as they say multiple times. He wants to bring music and humanity together in a very literal sense, and I think it's very good. This is a really, really good lore. And when I kind of read it beforehand, because I always, when Trickster came out, I was like, okay, what is the justification in his lore for his existence here? And you know, when I read this for the first time, I was like, wow, they did it. This guy who I had no hope for was just suddenly amazing. Like, his lore justifies his reasons for being here and makes him scary, just in a mental sense. It's something you won't see within his gameplay, but at the end of the day, in my opinion, I do believe him to deserve his place in the fog. He is horror. He is a subsection of horror, the demented music star, if you wish to call it that. And I think he does a very good job at that. I'm very fond, as you can tell, of his lore, and he's a, shall we say, controversial love of mine, as the video title has. Oh my god, I dropped the video title. What? Title drop, oh my god, we are Dead by Daylight. You know, stupid shit like that. But yeah, I think his lore is fantastic. But with that said, let's move on to his power and his gameplay. Now, just like two of the killers that we have discussed in this series so far, Ji-Woon, or the Trickster, I'll call him the Trickster for the rest of this video, he is a ranged killer. Now, as I said in the Deathslinger video, when it comes to creating a new ranged killer, you have to think of something a bit different. You can't just do another, you know, Huntress, throw an item and it does a single point damage, right? So what did they do for Trickster? They gave him 44 blades. These little tiny blades can be thrown, and they will either miss, shatter on impact, or when they hit a survivor, they will build up what is known as the laceration meter. With each blade that is hit, the meter will go up and up and up, and when it's at full charge, if you hit another blade, ow, I just hit my hand on the table. If you hit another blade when they're at full laceration, which can be notified by like the red circle, and it will do like a sound. I don't know how to, it's like a really high pitched screech sound. Either way, when it's at full and you hit them again, they take a health state, right? Now, as he's throwing these blades and, you know, successfully hitting them, he charges up a special ability known as the main event, where he enters a state where he just throws them really, really fast. He gets like infinite blades and just throws them really, really, really fast for like 6 seconds. And once that's obviously meant to like secure the second health state, maybe, I kind of think, potentially. And once he's finished with his main event, he'll like enter like a fatigue state, not too dissimilar to how the Legion kind of fatigues after they miss their feral frenzy swipe. I was trying to remember the name of it. This power is okay. It runs into a big issue, and I know a lot of people don't like playing against it, because when you play against Trickster, you only feel the positives of his power. You just feel the oppressive, non-stop blade throwing onslaught that downs you before you can even really like run away in any way, shape or form. But on the Trickster side, not only do you feel that sort of power of, you know, hitting all the blades and getting it down really, really easy in a big open space, the second you run into a jungle gym, you might as well just not have a power. Like, jungle gyms are the worst as Trickster. You're not going to be hitting blades. You just won't. You're not going to hit enough blades in quick succession to get a damage state out of them. He is a very map-dependent killer. If you are on an indoor map, you can say goodbye to even playing your killer. You go to the hospital map that I forget the names of, it's just done. You might as well just open your menu, quit. Don't do that. You don't want to get like banned or whatever. You don't get banned that quickly unless you've done it before. You know what I mean. Indoor maps are this guy's worst nightmare because he struggles with anything with walls in it. And you know what, there are some add-ons that help that, and personally I do like a few of his add-ons. The one that makes them ricochet and the one that makes them shatter and impact are personal favourites, because it kind of they don't remove his his counter, which is walls and high spots, but they make them easier to play around, especially the ricochet one. The ricochet one can help with jungle gyms and stuff. But yeah, his power is kind of a weird one. People do not like him. He falls into that little camp of killers that just are hated no matter what. Even playing as him isn't particularly the most fun in the world. Like, it doesn't particularly feel good to walk up to a dude and just blitz him down with a bunch of knives. And it also doesn't feel good when, you know, you can't use the knives. It's kind of like a lose-lose situation. But obviously it's not fun to go against either, because what do you do? If you're in an open space, like, what can you do? You can't. You can't do anything. And he's kind of a weird one. I like playing as him, kinda. Not. I know I just said I didn't, but he's a weird killer. He falls into a little controversial camp of killers that are kind of universally hated by any and every survivor. I don't think I've ever seen any survivor say, "Wow, I love playing against Trickster." He kind of falls into the same camp as like Ghoul and I don't know any other ones that people like vitriolically hate. People vitriolically hate the Ghoul. He keeps popping up in these videos. Maybe we should start doing a counter of how many times I've said the Ghoul. We're not going to do that, actually. It'd be like it'd be in the 20s, 50s even. Yeah, it'd be in the 50s by the time we get to his video. But anyways, I think his power is it's okay. It's good that it's different from the rest of the range killers, and you know, that's always good. Variety is the spice of life, as they say. Even though I wouldn't know what spices are, I'm white. But yeah, it's not particularly, it feels a bit, it's not fun to go against, and it doesn't feel particularly satisfying to use. It just kind of feels like you're just smashing your head against a wall. You're just smashing your head against a wall until a survivor drops dead from the laceration. But anyways, with that said, we move on to his teachable perks. The first of said teachable perks is known as Starstruck, with a description reading as such. Your unmatched showmanship dazzles all. While carrying a survivor, any other survivors within your terror radius suffer from the exposed status effect. This effect persists for 26, 28 or 30 seconds on survivors who leave your terror radius, as well as those within the radius when you hook or release the carried survivor. Starstruck has a cooldown of 60 seconds once a survivor is no longer carried. Exposed survivors will be downed with a basic attack even if uninjured, and it has flavor text reading, "Enjoy this moment. Few get so close." A quote from the Trickster himself. Now, this is one of the funny perks which, in its entire history of being in the game, it was introduced in March of 2021, it has never been changed. Ever. It's never been patched in any way, shape or form, like since its release. And I think that's really, really funny. I think that's hilarious that this is one of the quote-unquote most balanced perks in the entire game. However, its uses are quite limited to just the Mad Grit carry build, like where you just run Agitation, Brutal Strength, Mad Grit, and then this. Because then you can just run around the map at supersonic speeds carrying a survivor on your back and just one-shot downing people with, like, rapid basic attacks that they can't really escape from. It's a fun build. Like, I used it in the pig video and ended a game in like 7 minutes. It was really, really fun. But yeah, it's kind of a limited perk. You can use it in one build, which is really solid on certain killers, and yeah, I got no qualms with it. Though personally, in that build, like the grab one, I prefer the Wesker perk, where you can see survivors within when you're carrying someone. I don't know, I just kind of prefer that, because once they know that you have Starstruck, they'll just run away as far as they possibly can away from you. So it kind of counteracts the whole point of the perk, but that's what you should be doing when you're against this pack anyways. But yeah, it's a fun perk. It's never been changed in its entire history, which is hilarious, and yeah, I'd like it. With that said, let's move on to his second perk. Said second perk is known as Hex Crowd Control, with a description reading as such. A hex that ensures those lesser than you are properly herded. When a survivor performs a rushed vault, the vault becomes blocked by the entity. This applies for up to 3, 4 or 5 vaults. The hex effect persists as long as the related hex totem is still standing. With flavor text reading, "You have no control. People like you never did." Another quote from the Trickster. Now, this perk used to be that it was the vaults were blocked for a certain timer. Now it is a permanent blockage, which is very strong on paper, right? However, what I've noticed in using this perk is that once a survivor realizes that this perk is up, usually, say they get downed, right? They'll come off the hook, run to a corner of the map, and rush vault 4 different windows as quickly as possible. They're just away from any gens, making the perk completely useless. If it works, it can work quite well, because, blocking a vault permanently is a lot. However, it's also a hex perk. Do you know what that means? It can be removed from the game. So yeah, usually it's one or two things. They just put all of the blockage out in a corner of the map where no one's ever going to go, or they get rid of the hex totem and the perk kind of just doesn't work. When it works, it really works, because you can just end a chase way quicker. I had a game that I played way back when, where, I say way back when, it went way back when, but you know what I mean. I played a game where someone vaulted with, this perk was up, someone vaulted a jungle gym, and the jungle gym was completely blocked off for the rest of the game. And it was right next to like 2 gens. It was so funny to see them always run to the jungle gym and then just die, because there's no windows to vault, and without the windows, it's like that one where it's like the 2 windows like right next to each other. I hate those jungle gyms. They annoy me to no end, mostly because I'm bad at looping them, but that's besides the point. That's not my fault, it's the survivor's fault. I'm joking, of course. Anyways, with my tearful rant over, let's move on to his third perk. Said third perk is easily his best one, known as No Way Out, with a description reading as such. You're not just going to let anyone into the VIP room. After hooking a survivor for the first time, No Way Out gains a token. Once the exit gates have been powered, No Way Out activates. When a survivor interacts with an exit gate switch, you receive a loud noise notification. The entity then blocks both exit gates for 12 seconds, plus an additional 6, 9 or 12 seconds, depending on the perk level, for each token in your possession, totaling up to, assuming you hook all 4 survivors, 60 seconds, which, as you know, is a long-ass time. It is flavor text reading, "That sound when you bleed. Let me hear it again." A quote again from the Trickster. This is one of the cornerstones of an endgame build. It is very, very powerful, assuming you are playing, decently well and hooking every survivor at least once. It's basically free value. You make the endgame go on for another 60 seconds, which gives you the chance to kill more survivors. And if you combined it with other perks which make it harder to open the exit gates, then yeah, you are going to be stuck in the endgame for quite a while. A really disgusting build I've been seeing going around recently is No One Escapes Death, which is the one which makes it so survivors are exposed during the endgame. No Way Out, Remember Me. Wait, Remember Me? It's a Freddy perk that makes it so it takes longer for the generators to, for the exit gates to open. And the Springtrap perk, Haywire, which makes it so that the exit gates actually regress up to a certain point, or or starting from a certain point. I think that's how they work. Either way, this perk is a cornerstone of endgame builds. It will always be a cornerstone of endgame builds, unless they nerf it to the ground, of course. And I think it's very good, by the way. I think it's a very good perk. I'm very fond of it. I've used it in a few builds or in like this series, and yeah, I enjoy using it. It's a very passive perk, though. That's the case with most of the good perks in the game, though. They're all quite passive. You don't have to do much for them to get value. I mean, obviously, hooking 4 survivors, that, yeah, you do kind of have to do something, but its actual effect is very passive, and I prefer more active perks, per se. Anyways, with that said, we move on to his design, as well as my favourite and least favourite cosmetics for him. Now, while I did praise the Trickster for being, horror well done, at least in his lore, his design doesn't particularly reflect that, and his design has always been the biggest dislike of mine. First of all, fashion sense. Can we get some of it? The pink trousers with yellow stripes going down it, that looks like ass. The bright yellow jacket on top of it, that looks like ass. The pale, almost purpley violet-y, like, coloured hair, that looks like ass. He looks like ass. This is one of the biggest K-pop stars in his little universe. How? This design, I can't hate it too much. You know, someone did put the effort in, wow, he needs better outfits. He needs better outfits. So bad. So many of his cosmetics would have just worked as better base designs. Like this outfit is not it. Otherwise, it's alright. He looks fine. He looks like a K-pop star. That sounds weirdly racist. He looks, you know, like an evil K-pop star, I suppose. Bright colors. You know, no, he doesn't. I don't. Unless I'm just stupid. I'm not a K-pop guy, right? No surprises. He doesn't really look like what I would think of when it comes to K-pop stars. I've seen some of the outfits they have. They're fancy, funky, odd, out there. This is not it. The outfit is what makes this design not work, and it probably is the reason why most people don't see him as a deserving member of the Fog, because this outfit is not good. I do not like it. I think the blood marks on his hands and his chest are quite cool, right? His glowing eyes are quite a statement. The glowing eyes are quite a key part of him. And the neon baseball bat is kind of cool, but yeah, this isn't it. I don't really like his base design all too much. I think his cosmetics do a better job at kind of capturing the sort of funky K-pop killer look, per se. Yeah, and speaking of his cosmetics, actually, you know, before we speak of his cosmetics, I need to give a small shout out to his music. His menu music is genuinely fantastic. I think his chase music is also genuinely fantastic. And I also forgot to mention, I'll give him props for being just a dude. This is just a guy. This is not like Trapper, where he's, you know, quite buff and tall and he's got entity powers. This is just a dude. When you're running around as him, you can hear him like panting and heavily breathing as you walk. And I think that's really cool. I think that's a really, really cool addition. But his design still isn't nowhere near my favourites whatsoever. But anyways, speaking of his cosmetics and stuff, let us move on to my favourite and least favourite cosmetics for him. Now, as I say in every single one of these videos, when it comes to deciding what I think is my favourite and least favourite, when it comes to least favourites, I'm not allowed to pick anything below a very rare, because if I could, I'd just pick some terrible yellow recolor and call it a day, which is boring. And when it comes to my favourites, I can pick whatever the hell I want. Speaking of my least favourite though, we have Paradise Beatdown. Yeah, no, this is terrible. This is really, really bad. Not only is the outfit itself quite boring, it is simply a purple jacket and some purple swim shorts. That it looks ugly. Purple is not his colour. The purple hair looks stupid. The actual like outfit and like the jacket and the shorts look dumb, and the flip-flops, the sandals, they just don't look good either. And a little knock on it as well, the weapon, the bat, is copied from a different skin. You can kind of see it in the footage that you probably just saw or are seeing. I don't know how long I'll make it, but if you see the little red outfit where he's got like the furred coat and stuff, it's the same bat. It's the same bat without the glowing like gold pink effects. Like, huh? Why does he just have a copied and pasted bat? It's a very bad skin. It's very boring as well. Like, there's next to no blood besides, you know, bits at the bottom and on his chest. Yeah, not good skin. Not good whatsoever. With that said, let us move on to my favourite skin. Now, this may be a basic bitch choice, but it's Pressured Performer. This skin just looks really, really cool to me. I'm very fond of the sort of urban neon outfit that he's wearing. I like the blue jacket. I like the neon sort of tank top he's wearing underneath it with the big red cross across it. The bat is quite cool, being just a big glowy stick. And I think the face mask, like his little face mask with the patterns and stuff on it, looks good. The quiff is a little questionable, right? You know, the sort of like parting and the blue and green hair, that's a little questionable. I will give it that. But I think the big glowy scar thing down one of his eyes is cool. I don't know. It just kind of looks cool. It's a cool fit. I'm fond of the fit. Would I ever wear it myself? No, of course not. Hell no. But I think it looks cool, and yeah, I think it's my favourite. He's got a lot of good cosmetics. There are a lot of choices I could have made for my favourite, because he just has a lot of good ones. As I said, I think his cosmetics are actually better than his base design. But anyways, with all of that said, we're at the end of the video, and I hope you have enjoyed my rambles about the Trickster. Good evening. I hope you have a good evening, afternoon, morning, etc. Like, comment and subscribe if you feel so inclined. and the next video will have a bit more effort put into it, so I do apologise if it may take a few days to come out. And said video, well, I might put more effort into it, but hey ho. Anyways, next video we will be talking about Resident Evil 3's Nemesis.